Hello everybody and welcome back to Full House Sports, here with myself Charlie for episode 4 of Calcio Corner, where I talk all things Italian football and Serie A. And I think the only place to rightfully start is with the sad news, the devastating news really. I mean, devastating is a strong word, but in football terms it is, that Inter and AC Milan have agreed a sale with Milan City Council for the sale of the San Siro to them in order to knock it down and build what they term as an ultra-modern stadium, which will probably be another soulless spaceship-looking thing that has no atmosphere. It's gutting. There's no other way to put it. I've been to San Siro twice, both times to watch Inter in the Champions League. I'd love to watch AC there as well. It's got a character and a life of its own, and people will laugh and say, it's just a stadium, but it genuinely has. You can feel the history emanating on it. I said the other week when I went to watch England at Villa Park, I haven't been Villa Park as a club fan, but you could feel that history, and the San Siro is that, but almost a level or two up in terms of the greats you've had playing. I mean, you could make 4 or 5 all-time 11s from Inter Milan and AC Milan players that, if they were playing now, would storm every league in Europe. And that's the sadness of it. We're losing great grounds. I feel like that guy, what's he say when he's like, we're losing recipes. We're losing great grounds. Goodison went last year. I know it wasn't everyone's favourite, but it was a great old ground. Obviously, we lost the Vicente Calderon a few years ago. Atletico, I know people love the Wanda, but Calderon was the Calderon. The Mestalla, it looks like, is going to go Valencia ground. The Camp Nou's been done up and rebuilt. I don't really know what it's done. It's been modernised, I guess. And I know these places do need modernising, but surely you can keep some elements of it. White Hart Lane, that went. Upton Park, there'll be West Ham fans screaming at the moment saying, yeah, we know how it feels to lose the soul of things. Just a terrible shame. And Inter won at the week of the San Siro. I was wondering if there would be any reaction or protest from the Ultras, but I don't know whether there's an acceptance amongst them that it's got to happen. There's no news on where they'll play afterwards, or not afterwards, but during this season. There's no news on where that's going to go when it's knocked down, because they can't both ground share the same club, or you'd have 3 clubs potentially playing at a venue. And I don't think there's another stadium in Milan. And surely both clubs cannot afford to take the financial hit of playing at a much smaller ground, because they can't. They're not financially the most stable anyway. I don't know. Whether they're prepared to, hoping the new stadium pays off, I don't know. And I think the Milan clubs is a great place to start, but not with Inter, but with AC, because I did tip up last week in episode 3. I thought they could shock Napoli. I did say I didn't think Napoli were clicking. And whether you could call it a shock or not, beat them they did. 2-1. It was a great game. These games, Sunday night games in Serie A, are absolutely fantastic, especially when you get 2 of the old school giants meeting. They're just brilliant. The fans are well up for it. The players are well up for it. I think there's a clip gone viral of Leao's on the break, and I think you've got about 8 Napoli players all chased him back, hunting him down. That's what it's about. It was brilliant to see. But Milan, who I did say, I think, earlier in the series, I don't know which episode it would have been, I did think they could be the pretenders to Napoli's crown, especially without European football, as a distraction, if you will. I did think they could be contenders, and listen, the Cremonense game start of the season, you can count that as a blip. But Allegri knows his way around Serie A, and yes, it's not always the most entertaining, but listen, Juve, I called the most entertaining team the other week, and look at where they are now. Or not where they are, but look at what's happened now. And Milan are contenders. I don't care what anyone says. They've got a strong squad. I said that last week. The players they've got, the players they can now bring off the bench as well. I think that's quite important, because in recent years, I think the players they've been able to bring off the bench have maybe lessened the quality on the pitch. This year, I don't think that's the case. And I think that's really, really important. They face what feels like a murderer's row. It feels like they have Bologna the Sunday before, then Napoli. Now they've got Juventus on Sunday night. Juve, where'd you start with them? I think I may have cursed them. If a YouTube channel that's the size of mine can curse someone, but I think I may have cursed them when I called them the most entertaining side in Europe, because yes, they're scoring goals, but they're conceding them as well. And it was the ex-player curse in midweek against Villarreal. Renato Vega scoring, cup in his ears, saying they deserved relegation. I think I read some. I don't know how true that is, but definitely giving it the Adebayor to the Juventus faithful at the Madrigal, or the Ceramica, sorry, I should say now, where the Villarreal play. And yeah, they can't stop conceding. They conceded to Atalanta last week when they drew 1-1. It needs sorting. I know that a lot of Juventus fans are still not sold on that central defence, still not sold on the likes of Lloyd Kelly. I get it. And I actually was one who, after the Inter Milan game, said, oh no, I think he's been harshly treated. But maybe I was being a bit too... I was overlooking the fact that he's scoring goals, but actually that's not his job. His job's to defend. And they're not doing it great at the moment. Juve look open at the back. And I think Milan will have some fun with that on Sunday night. I really do. And I think the form they're in Milan at the moment, they feel like anything is possible. And that's quite important. There seems to be a real belief around the squad of, we can do this year. We've got Allegri, we've got the players around us, we've got the squad, we've got the morale. We can play anyone and beat anyone. And I think so important in that is Luka Modric. You cannot understate how important he is. Them photos, by the way, of him and De Bruyne on Sunday, if no one's seen them, go look at them. They are iconic. They will be one of them ones who in years to come, pages will be posting. You know, just them two talking in the centre circle, going toe to toe. It was brilliant. It was everything that Serie A is good for, because yes, the Premier League and other leagues, Bundesliga certainly, can boast maybe the younger talent. But for all that, you've got this fine wine that is Serie A, with these experienced heads who still know how to play, and who certainly for me grew up watching, certainly Modric, and you think they've still got it. They still produce those elements of magic. Napoli, nice segue into them. They won midweek against Sporting. 2 goals from a certain Rasmus Højlund. Who? Man United fans? No, listen, I think it's easy for us as English fans watching Serie A to say, United again, making another mistake. It's service to the striker. I think Mark Goldbridge said that this week. I don't always agree with what he says, but it's about service. And Højlund wasn't getting that service at Man United. He is now getting that service at Napoli, and he's scoring goals. If you give most strikers a lot of chances, I mean, it's always been the argument with Haaland, hasn't it? If you don't give him the service, he's not gonna score goals. But actually, Højlund is getting the service now. Again, I spoke about this sort of... I still think with Napoli, there's still these teething problems with how Antonio Conte wants them to play. Obviously, McTominay's now playing a new role. They've got so much talent in that centre of midfield that they had to change something. They played Genoa at the weekend. Genoa, yeah, things aren't good there. They're down in 19th. You would expect Napoli to win that. I still think Napoli will win the Scudetto. I still think it will click eventually, and they will win the league. I don't want to say comfortably, because I do now think Milan have laid down a marker. And I do think Milan will be the team that challenges them. They are the two that I think will go on. I'll talk about Inter in a bit, and maybe they might sneak into things, but I still firmly believe that Napoli will win the Scudetto. I just think their squad's too good. The interesting thing will be, and I think I touched on it earlier on in episodes, was the juggling of European football. But they have strengthened the squad for that purpose. They might even look at a game on Sunday. I know there's the international break coming up, so they're probably thinking, well, we don't need to. But they might even look at resting a few there, or just giving a few moments out. They'll probably bite their nails during the international break, so they won't want anyone getting injured against Genoa. Talking of European football, and Fiorentina won a game, which was probably nice. They're always going to win a game. It's Conference League. Conference League is their competition. It's their competition without them actually winning the competition. I do hope this year they do win it. And I'm not saying that because I don't like Palace or anything like that. That's a ridiculous thing to say. But I do want Fiorentina to win it. They're just permanently unlucky in that competition. And I'd love their fans to just have that moment. They're a club with such a history of these moments of heartbreak and pure elation, pure joy, and often sometimes the nearly men, and I would love them to just get that over the line. But there's teething problems in Florence with Pioli. There's a lot of people saying that tactically he's a very good manager, but actually during games his game management isn't the best. I think there's a lot going on at Fiorentina, to be honest with you. I don't necessarily think the buck stops with Pioli. I think they've wasted some money in the summer. You know, Pioli's got this classic thing of a new manager of he can't seem to decide his best team. They spent a lot of money on Pioli, who I think has started the season really poor for them. I watched them against Pisa and games before that. I think he started the season poorly. And I think it will, I don't want to say click, I don't know what clicking really means, to be honest, for Fiorentina, because I still think their focus will be winning that Conference League, and they have every reason to believe they can. Fiorentina play Roma, who had a disastrous Thursday against Lille. Anyone who follows social media or anything else will know what I'm talking about. Missing 3 penalties in their 1-0 loss to Lille in the Europa League. Gasperini was flabbergasted, and everyone else certainly was as well watching. For Roma, it was disappointing. It's not the end of the world because of the elongated European phases. I don't think they'll be too worried. They've still got some, seem to be easier fixtures ahead, I guess. So, although that will be sort of, there might be a slight inquest and probably practice at taking penalties, it won't be the end of the world for them. But it does go back to what I've said in previous episodes of Calcio Corner about Roma, which is I don't necessarily believe that there's many goals in this side, and I do think it shows. It's ironic for a Gasperini side that Gasperini, of course, is known for this free-flowing, fast-paced attacking football. It's ironic that I don't think there's many goals in it, but Dovbyk and Ferguson are so low on confidence that I just think there will probably be a few games like this where they create chances and they don't take them. And whereas Gasperini's, and I think he might turn Ferguson and, I wouldn't say Scamacca there, but he's the example I'm going to use, Ferguson and Dovbyk around. You know, he's done it with Scamacca, he's done it with other strikers. It's probably going to be it's going to be a process where you've got 2 strikers who are low on confidence, and he's got to turn them into goal scorers. Now, time to talk about Inter, as we spoke about the San Siro. And they grinded out a win midweek against Slavia Prague. Christian Kievy probably doesn't want the international break to come, especially with the 3 victories in a row. It was shades of Inzaghi into, I thought, the last 2 games, where, listen, they're not blowing people away, but they're beating teams and beating them quite convincingly. They were far superior to Slavia, who were poor. But, listen, I don't think they'll be Scudetto contenders, I'll be honest with you. They might just sneak into it on the basis they're beating the sides below them and down there. And if you can do that, then you'll probably find yourself within that title race because of the inconsistency of the sides around them. I just think there's still blips on the way with Christian Kievy and Inter. There's still a transitional phase, and I do think that things will take time. Whether Kievy will be the man for that, I don't know. They play host to Cremonense, who are still undefeated. I feel like that Man United bloke who hasn't cut his hair in until they win 5 games, sorry. I feel like, well, to be fair, look at the state of my beard and my hair. Probably looks like I haven't cut my hair or beard since Cremonense last lost a game. But they're still undefeated. And yes, while the focus in England is Vardy when talking about Cremonense, it's still a crazy story. It's not a crazy story, but it's a great story. It's a story of a side who've come up, they've bought well, they've bought in the right style of player, the right profile of player, and do you know what? All the power to them and to Sassuolo, because I think it's been a theme around Europe in this season that teams have seemingly come up and given it a go. That's what we want to see. We don't want to see teams come up, Lloyd's down the bottom, collect the paycheck, back down. Cremonense, they're not going to teams, they're not trying to outplay them. They're not going, they know that the personnel on the other teams is probably slightly better, but they're not trying to outplay them in that sense. They're just doing things the right way. And that is what you ask for. You can't be naive, and some teams are naive. I think Pisa to an extent might fit that category of being slightly naive at the moment. But Cremonense aren't doing that, and it's a great story. I think they'll stay up because I think they've got enough there, enough nous around the pitch to do that. And like I say, they've got goals. Vasquez, Sanabria, Vardy, I say it every week. They've got goals, which is so important for a newly promoted side. Listen, they've won at the San Siro already this season. Saturday night, they'll be hoping to make it 2 from 2. There's probably some wild statistic about the last time they did that, or a newly promoted side did that. But it'd be unbelievable. Saturday, 5 o'clock. As always, plenty to talk about in Serie A. International break next week. There'll probably be plenty to talk about that if Gattuso has his way. Things are always seemingly crazy when he's around. I might do a video on that, just especially if it's anything like the Israel fixture. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Please give us a like. Please subscribe. And please check out my other content. Thank you very much and have a great day.